Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. I've got 3 stories to share with you on this latest Moon Lambo hot jam. A very popular XRP chart analyst believes that XRP is going to be heading to $1.40, and he says, quote, "God candle, it is coming," end quote. And so, look, I'm not a chart guy. I don't pretend to know what's going to happen in terms of price action. But I appreciate those that are willing to stick their neck out there and make price predictions and share what they suppose is most probable in terms of XRP price action. And we can just track stuff over time and see who's mostly right. And then there's also this headline, and I'm going to try to be somewhat brief on this one. But from you today here, Ripple triumphs as Judge Torres dismisses case against Garlinghouse and Larson. And the reason I'm going to provide more than just a little bit of a blurb on this, because we already knew that the SEC, of course, they have dismissed. They announced that they were dismissing the case. The reason I'm going to spend just a couple minutes on this is because there's perspective from an attorney within the XRP community who caught something that I haven't seen anybody else bring up. And then there was also this headline from Finance Feeds. MicroStrategy's Bitcoin bet pays off, turns profit of $160 million. And so there you go. I just wanted to touch on this because I can relate to this. And whatever you think of Bitcoin, whatever you think of Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy and their investment into Bitcoin, I'll just say this. I respect the conviction because I have the same level of conviction specifically. I mean, certainly true of the broadly speaking of the crypto asset class, but specifically for XRP. And so people gave Michael Saylor crap as Bitcoin was down for years and his investment was down for years. But folks, that shouldn't be surprising. For the first few years that I was in crypto, because market cycles, let's be real, we've been on 4-year cycles, right? So for the first few years that I was dollar cost averaging in XRP, I was down for most of that time period. So what? So it's like, but I had strong conviction, and I still do, and so I just admire the fact that even though he's taken a different approach, he thinks Bitcoin is the one. Okay, fine, whatever. He has conviction in it, though. He knows what he's doing, and he's not letting any of the detractors influence him in what he's doing in his Bitcoin investment strategy. So whatever you think of Bitcoin or Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, doesn't matter. Hopefully, we can all at least appreciate that. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so a few days ago, we got word from the SEC. They let the judge know, hey, we're dismissing the charges against Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson with prejudice. The case is over. That's it, right? But there's a little bit more to it, actually. So check this out. Now that Judge Torres has actually signed off on this thing, so it's official, it has gone through, so that's why this is back in the news, to be clear, is because Judge Torres has given it the thumbs up. We have additional specificity here, and here's what XRP community member and attorney Fred Rispoli had to say. The signed order from Judge Torres just came in, granting the stipulation of dismissal. In reading the original stipulation, I failed to notice the parties only agreed to dismiss Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson from the institutional sales claim only. As the judge ruled in Ripple's favor on programmatic sales and other distributions, the claims against Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson for those 2 categories automatically died at that point, but could theoretically be revived if the SEC appeals and wins on overturning programmatic sales and other distributions for XRP transactions. And if the SEC totally wins on appeal, it can later sue Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson on institutional sales because this dismissal is with prejudice. I'm sorry, it can't later sue Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson on institutional sales because this dismissal is with prejudice, which means never, ever, ever can Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson be sued on the institutional sales theory. So it was a sloppy drafting in the dismissal to only include institutional sales in the dismissal? I doubt it. I think this is more proof the SEC is going to, as Water T would say, crunch the numbers and wrap this one up for good. And so again, you'll recall that the SEC, they made a number of assertions having to do with Ripple's activities in sales having to do with XRP. So there were the institutional sales, there were the programmatic sales, and then there were other types of sales. And they're all specified. And that's why when Judge Torres issued her summary judgment decision, she used that language that the SEC filed in their original brief, because the charges against Ripple, right? So that makes sense. But you'll recall that the SEC only won in institutional sales, but they lost in programmatic sales and the other distributions. So what Attorney Rispoli is saying here is that, no matter what, it's literally impossible. It cannot be the case that the SEC can ever go after Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson for the institutional sales. But he's saying if there's an appeal for the other transactions, in theory they actually could, which is not something I had seen brought up by anyone else, period. And so then the question is, why did Brad Garlinghouse's attorneys allow this? Why did they not think of it? And so somebody named Win Moon responded to Attorney Rispoli and said, "Not sure that I understand what you were trying to say or the point you were making." And so he clarified with the following point: if I were Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson, I would have demanded dismissal of all claims, not limiting it to institutional sales only. If the SEC appeals and overturns ruling on other sales, SEC can still sue Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson on those two other categories. So again, I hadn't heard that perspective anywhere, so I found that fascinating. So is this because they're just abundantly confident that it's not going to get to that point, that this isn't going to be a turn and it's just going to be a non-issue? I don't know. But, look, to be clear, I still would guess that, this is not something that's going to come back and bite them on the rear end. But Attorney Rispoli is just noting that technically it possibly could, just not the institutional sales. And then there was also this from chart analyst E. Greg Crypto with 37,300 followers. He's the one that was talking about the God candle and XRP hitting potentially upwards of a $1.40 here. And so here's exactly what he had to say here. And it doesn't get too into the weeds in terms of technical analysis, so I want to share with you his full thoughts on this in full context. And he wrote, "XRP God candle, it is coming. Feel free to rewind to my post on April 2nd, 2023, where I initially introduced the God candle. Fast forward to today, and XRP is still chipping away at what can only be described as its own Berlin Wall of resistance. With each small pinch, this formidable barrier inches closer to its inevitable collapse. The potential breakthrough looming on the horizon promises to be nothing short of spectacular. My expectations are set on XRP's forthcoming move, which I anticipate falling within the impressive range of $1.10 to $1.40. And so, again, folks, I don't make price predictions, but that range doesn't seem wacky to me in the least. That's not even close to all-time high. Now, I'd love to see that. That would be inspiring, let's say, considering what we've seen recently, right, in terms of XRP price action. But again, with the excitement of what's happening with Bitcoin leading the way out, this doesn't sound remotely unreasonable should Bitcoin continue to the upside. And you don't need to be a chart analyst to come to that reasonable conclusion. I'm not. It's just obvious to the layperson. Like, of course, Bitcoin's going to keep doing this. Now, he has his chart analyst reasons as to why. So let me get a little bit further because he also shares the additional perspective. W formation. Now let's take a closer look at the current technical analysis. It's apparent that XRP is in the process of forming a distinct W pattern, a chart formation often associated with trend reversals and powerful price momentum. This pattern suggests a measured move to approximately 65 cents. Now, folks, I'll pause to note this is interesting because a different XRP chart analyst known as Dark Defender, who has been I'll just say it like this, he's become notably popular in recent times. I think now up to something like 95,000 followers in the community. I actually happened to mention that in my very last video, but he's talking about XRP also getting to that range. I believe he said 66 cents. So that seems to be, we're splitting hairs at that point, 65, 66 cents. They both seem to think that that's the next reasonable level. And then he says the following: the rebounds. Our next significant milestone is around 65 cents, and a successful breach at this level would indicate a bullish trend, setting the stage for a retest of the range between 55 to 58 cents, followed by a rebalance. If this rebalance materializes, the confirmation of a price range between $1.10 and $1.40 is highly probable. XRP Army, stay steady. Our moment in the spotlight is drawing near, and your unwavering commitment will soon be rewarded. Well, I'll tell you what, eGreg Crypto, it better be, because I've been at this 6 years almost, damn it. Although, if not for the SEC, I think that I would have had my life-changing wealth back in 2021. I do believe that. But either way, my holdings are still worth way, way, way more than when I jumped in 6 years ago. So, still looking good. It just hasn't been to the point where I've chosen to cash out into United States dollars. But I have a strong suspicion, especially looking at what I'm holding going into this next market. I have a very strong suspicion that I'm going to be selling the vast majority, if not all, of my crypto. That's my goal. And then once the bubble fully inflates and then inevitably pops again, then I'm going to buy in again and start the whole process over. And of course, continue to run the YouTube channel, because running this channel, frankly, is my most favoriteest hobby ever. I love running this channel. And I very much genuinely appreciate all the support, because it would be very lonely going on this journey without all of you. But we have an actual, real, big-ass community here full of millions of people. And then there's this, and I just want to touch on this because I just think it's cool, because it has to do with conviction. And again, Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, Bitcoin, I understand. Not everybody's cup of tea, and fair enough, I say. But I admire very genuinely the conviction. Even though Michael Saylor, he says like some crazy stuff, and he is a Bitcoin maximalist, which I find completely absurd and unreasonable. The conviction that he has specifically with Bitcoin, and how he doesn't let anything sway him, the price going down, it doesn't faze him in the least. And same for me, though. Like, price going down for reasons having nothing to do with any sort of fundamental change, that doesn't emotionally touch me. Ever. Not in the least. And I've been at this for almost 6 years, never sold a single XRP. So yes, when I see other people successfully pulling this off and not letting the feels get the best of them, yes, I think that's pretty cool. So I don't really need to read the article. I just wanted to mention it. But at the time of this article, they were up... MicroStrategy was up $150 million, but he'd been down for much of the last couple of years, down on the investment, and to the tune of billions of dollars, because he bought on such scale here. But I can relate to that. And so while obviously I didn't have ever billions of dollars in crypto and losses, but even so, for me, like subjectively, I'd say that I was down rather substantially for years on end. But I didn't let that bother me. I just kept dollar cost averaging, because I understood back then the volatility of XRP, it didn't actually mean anything. It's just how humans behave. I should expect humans to behave in a way that would cause my investment to be worth way more at times, and to be in the red at times, taking a loss at times. I should expect that, because data shows me, 14 years worth of data now at this point anyway, shows me that that's what happens, and it's an extremely volatile asset class. I should expect that. It would be weird if it weren't happening. So no, I'm not going to freak out when what I know should happen based on historic precedent actually happens. No, I'm not going to freak out about that. But it's cool with Bitcoin getting as high as it got, and this might have been closer to, when Bitcoin was closer to, $34,000, $35,000, and I think it's a little bit lower at the time that I'm recording this. I didn't check the price right before recording this video anyway. But there is an account here, Ash Crypto. I'm not familiar with the account, but they noted that MicroStrategy's Bitcoin investment was actually up $745 million. They note that that's $745 million in unrealized gains, which just means there's $745 million in the black, and it's unrealized gains because they haven't sold it, and they have no intention of selling it. So says Michael Saylor. So way in the profit. And so you can imagine what that's going to look like once we have another all-time high. Then he's going to look like a goddamn genius. But so are we in the XRP community. That's what I believe, because the idea of XRP never hitting a new all-time high, while I can't guarantee it's going to happen, and so I don't make price predictions, the idea of that not happening sounds completely ridiculous to me. You're telling me the best price we'd ever see for XRP already happened almost 6 years ago, January 4th, 2018, shy of $4, and now we went from less than 700,000 XRP accounts to almost 5 million, and it's got legal clarity, and there's more money flowing in. We're about to have a Bitcoin spot ETF get approved, which will help the entire space. You're telling me all that. That's reality, but we're still not going to get a new XRP all-time high ever. Does anybody actually think that? I know that there are toxic Bitcoin maxis that would say such things, and they'd want people to believe that because they want to crap all over XRP, but they're just not being intellectually honest, so far as I can tell. That's my supposition anyway. But does that seem remotely reasonable? I don't think so. And then I noticed here that CZ, founder of Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange by volume, responded to that particular post and said, "Holding is not easy, ... And I got to tell you, I strongly disagree. I have no trouble holding. I am not impatient. I don't have emotional feels about it. It doesn't scare me, not in the least. Now, I understand that for most people, that at least in the typical retail speculators, I understand that it's not easy. But it's in my subjective opinion is that it couldn't be more easy. All I have to do is literally nothing. And the reason that I'm at such peace with this is because of a couple of reasons. First of all, I only invested what I'm willing to lose in case I'm wrong, because I could be, and everything that I own goes to zero. That's possible. But also, I've researched things to such a sufficient degree that it makes such logical sense to me. I'd just be shocked if that didn't happen, if XRP didn't hit a new all-time high. And same for the other cryptos that I hold. I mean, I actually think that it's not likely, because I hold about 30 different cryptos. I don't think it's likely that I'm going to be able to sell all of them at a profit. That would be weird. Can you imagine? I invest in roughly 30 different cryptos, and then 100% of them pan out for me. That doesn't seem realistic. So I assume that there are going to be some, maybe a lot of them that I never sell because they just go down, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Because I'm never going to sell them if they're not worth anything that's going to be notable. I just won't even care. But I do suspect that there will be X number of coins that I hold, and where I have sufficiently large holdings, that they're going to take off, and it's going to be incredibly substantial for me. So I just need some winners. But all I'd say, this is easy. This couldn't be easier. But again, it's because I have such strong conviction. If I weren't as confident as I am, this would be harder. But I believe what I believe for the reasons that I've been articulating on this channel for almost 5 years now. Because I started this channel December 14th, 2018, coming up on 5 years running this thing. Moon Lambo channel with a silly ass name. It's been a blast, though. It's been a blasty blast. So get ready, folks. It's just a matter of time. And then all the Wayfair fans that left after the collapse a couple years ago, after the euphoria subsided, they're coming back. And then there'll also be a ton of new people in droves. And it's going to get buck wild. And I am ready for it. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Lambo.